I'm gonna play the song through, and then we'll start the track breakdown. I'm gonna see if I can keep it under an hour, but let's listen through our song Digital Dreams. I will mute myself as we go, and enjoy, guys.
Questions matter when we're gone. Where do you go in the darkness?
And that was the dulcet tones of the midnight, telling you to relax and have a safe journey to work. That's my 90s drive radio voice. I love this song. Tyler and I wrote this song back in, I think it was like January of, it's like the early part of 2020. God, man, honestly, I'm not even sure. Maybe it was like December or something. We started it in a room, in a little studio, little room in North Hollywood. And then we finished it. We finished the vocals in another studio in the honeymoon suite, I believe, which I now forget. Is it near Koreatown? No, it's not near Koreatown. It's like Chinatown. Oh God, I'm so horrible with, I just left LA about a month ago. I live in Oregon now, so now all this local knowledge is absolutely gonna leave my brain. Anyway, when we started, it was I don't know how it came about. I'm trying to remember, but I think I had, you know what? I think I actually had another track that started with this thing. I feel like the don't, you know, I feel like maybe it became something else and I made it into this once we wrote the song, but it had this, I may be mistaken, honestly, like it's so long ago and my brain is mush from all the life crap I was going through at the time. But this song remains one of my favorite on the album. I spent a lot of time on this mix and listening through it now, I still feel like, oh, I could have done this. I should have fixed this. And I literally, if you saw me moving this this piece of this MIDI, I realized that this had somehow been moved down here and muted. So during the solo, it doesn't matter. And I checked it in the very final master. It doesn't matter. You're really barely hearing it, but it bugs me to no end that I, you know, for some reason must have moved that and muted it. And now it ended up like that in the final mix, and it was a mistake, and I hate myself for it. These are the things we have to. So now we undid history by fixing it here. Let's start here. I get so rambly, and I want to talk about everything so in depth, and it's hard to keep it within an hour. So I may go a little over, but I will try to keep it to an hour. Okay, let's start with just like the drums. You know, here we go. By the way, oh, there's some double thing going on. What's going on here? Oh, it's fine. It was just my system. By the way, we should probably talk about my master bus. I didn't used to put a lot of stuff on my master bus because I hate, I don't like putting too much like compression and a ton of stuff that kind of messes with the levels. You know, let's say everything's playing and then the drums drop out and now everything gets louder because there's so much compression and stuff going on, and I don't like so. But on this record, I really tried to. I had much more bandwidth too. I didn't mix the last record, Heroes, but this one, and I've mixed all the other ones. But this Syndicate, I mixed the whole record, and I love that part of the process, especially now. At this stage, I feel like I've learned a lot in the last 10, 12 years doing the Midnight, and it's just really fun to really dig into that. So overall, I've been playing around with different sort of soft and hard clipping plugins. So for this one, I like this one by SIR Audio Tools. And I guess we could just quickly, let's say we just, for shits and giggles, listen to the drums. All right, so, oh, that's wrong. Without it, so you can hear it's just bringing it up a little bit. This guy, let's bypass it so we can. I hate that plugins that don't have the bypass thing without latency. It's always annoying to me, and I don't know why. Let's do this. This one doesn't have. Does. Where is it there? Okay. Tape saturation, bypassed. Bypassed. You hear that? It just kind of brings it out, and it's this is Satin by Yui. I think it's a German company. I love Yui and I love Satin. It is a great tape emulation, for saturation and color and distortion and some, sort of mild tone control as well. It adds a little top end to it, and just it kind of makes stuff a little crunchier. You can really crunch it, but it's really great. It has a little bit of soft clipping going on as well, which I don't know how much it's affecting. But then we have this guy, BX by Brainworks. I have the UAD version. Really, all I'm doing here is actually just using the mono maker. So that's what I've been doing a lot. I did a little bit of it on Monsters, and I'm sure on Heroes as well. But I, especially with this track, has, let's pull up the Reese bass. This bass is really deep, and oh, Tyler's calling me. I'm gonna have to call him back. So here's a Reese bass. A lot of wideness, a lot of kind of stereo imaging going on, and so what this does is just basically anything under 132 hertz, the low end, is made mono. So it's basically kind of centers the low end. This is on the whole master channel, as you can see. So everything is being kind of made mono in the low end, and so in that way you retain a lot of the width in the stereo field, but you get that focus and that punch in the low end. And so let's try and see if we can listen to if we can hear the difference. Maybe I'll play the whole thing. So this is bypassed, and let's try it on. Really subtle, really subtle. Maybe you won't even hear it on the stream. This guy is great. I got it on sale. It's from Waves. It's pretty aggressive, but it's really nice as just if you need to tighten up some low end or add a little bit of kind of gently roll up some highs, or bring some, add some highs and control the low end compression, and you can blend it in the signal. I've got it just set to 100, I think. Bypassed sounds like this, and with it. So really subtle, as you can hear. I'm not a big fan of plugins that are super sort of abrasive or really aggressive in terms of what they do. I love subtlety, and I'd rather add things on layers. Anyway, that's the kind of master channel. So let's look at these drums. I have some sort of 909 kick. Let's listen to it. It's just a sample. Let's actually take this one. So this is the kick. And then compression. This guy was a fairly cheap compressor. I got it, or maybe I got it on sale years ago. It's really good. It just smashes stuff, and then you can blend it. Not a lot of control, but you kind of don't need it. It's good for drums. It's good for, let's say you're controlling maybe like an electric guitar or something with sort of a lot of transients, and it's great. This guy is from Native Instruments, just another transient control, and it sounds different than the other ones I have. I love it. It's great. So it basically, I'm just adding a little bit of attack and taking back a little bit of that decay. Some EQ, pretty basic stuff. I'll just run through it as fast as I can. Just some hi-hats. Can't have that. Zebra is great. I use these hi-hats all the time. It's just like a synth with a little hi-hat setting, and I used it on America Online. I used it on literally probably every track on monsters and a bunch of unhero, and it's just kind of a nice, really subtle. And I like hi-hats and toppy percussion type stuff from synths. I don't love it from, I don't like kicks and snares from synths unless you bounce them, because you know you're going to get the same sort of transient hit every time. But when it's being generated by the synths, it always is a bit iffy, I find. But top stuff like percussion and hi-hats and stuff like that is great. And I like that it kind of sits a little synthetically in the mix. So it's just a little hi-hat. And then that might be it. What do we got here? This was from, there's a synth called Lush 101, which is like I forget who makes it, but it's kind of a chunky synth, to be honest. And actually, I don't think it's compatible with my new Mac. So I luckily had bounced all the elements from this old session once I got my new computer. So it's just an audio bounce, it's just a snare, but it kind of sounded video gamey to me, you know? So I liked it, and I used it. I think these two are from, no, this is a sample that I bounced and messed around with. I think it might be an Oliver sample, actually, from Splice. Oliver, who you should all check out. Fantastic, huge producer. Has done many like tools and stuff for Splice, so lots of sample stuff. This one is from the Lush 101. This square bass. Let's like, I think I didn't have. Here we go. Just that kind of, I call it a broken square. You know, it just feels really video gamey, nostalgic to me. It feels very like a nostalgic kind of 90s dystopia video game, which this album Syndicate was the very inception of it. The title came from me being inspired by the video game of the same name, Syndicate, from 1993 by Bullfrog. I was 13 when I was playing that, and I didn't quite understand it, but I thought it was so cool. And I just love the aesthetics of that. And it's got a really moody, sinister feel, that game. They did a remake, and it's like a first-person shooter in 2017, which I'm not a big gamer, but I heard it wasn't it wasn't very good, is what I've heard. But that game has such an aesthetic, the old one. And anyway, so this was kind of reminded me of that. And also, well, we'll get to the video gamey sound. So a little compression. This guy from, what did they call? Plugin Alliance. This guy, so it's just a compression. Not much going on there, just a little control. This is an emulation of some old sampler, and they took, the algorithms of what that does. Let's bypass it. So it sounds like this. And with it, you can roll up highs. You can even leave the filter up, but you can basically really degrade the sound. This is what the sampler apparently does. And if I'm wrong about it being a part of the sampler, let me know in the chat, but I'm pretty sure that is what it is. Like an Akai or something like that. But it's really nice just to kind of make stuff feel a little lo-fi. I've got some EQ, rolling off highs, rolling off some lows, controlling that, because we don't need that. I had it with I had this toppy, but listen to that, like high-end, that stuff, you really don't need it. It's just not very pleasant to the ear. And track space is fantastic for you, those of you who don't know it. It's essentially a sidechain plugin, but it sidechains certain frequencies, top or bottom. And you could basically go, here I have a synth, and it's got some low end information, but I also have a bass that's conflicting with it. And I don't want to just I don't want to just low cut my synth. But so I'll make it so that every time this other sound plays, it ducks those frequencies in the low end. So it makes space for them. So I've got that. It's pulling from a bunch of the other, like the respace, the low end bass, and I think this guy as well, if I'm not mistaken. And then some sidechain, blah, blah, blah. Let's move on. This guy is the big pad from this Lush 101 synth. You'll hear it coming in here. It's sort of a brass synth, like a brass pad, very like classic synth wavy that I'm just an absolute sucker for. And I wasn't sure whether that was going to survive after my update, so I bounced it as an audio file, and thank God I did that, because I couldn't open the synth after that. It's a shame they didn't make that M1 compatible, so it is what it is. Just a little bit of EQ, and again, this one is pulling from the respace, so every time the respace plays, which is this low bass I told you about before, when that comes in, it basically kind of ducks the lower frequencies. And I'm still, you know, I tried, let's listen to it. See, it doesn't have a lot of low end, but just around here, but the respace is filling that kind of space around here. So I was like, I don't want to just permanently duck that, because when it's not playing, it feels really nice. I want it to be filled, fill that space. Well, that was a mistake. All right. Video game sound. We'll get to this bad boy. So this is, I think it's called Super Mario or something, or maybe I just called it that. But I actually think it's got more of a, am I the only one that feels like it reminds of like a Zelda video game? So again, this one to just kind of roll off highs and kind of lo-fi a bit. So this is what it sounds like raw. So you hear that? It's just kind of degrading the sound a little bit, rolling off the highs just a tad. Echo Melt is amazing little plugin. It gets a little wonky, a little crazy sometimes, but if you use it subtly, it's just such a nice... you can add really nice, I don't want to say textures, it's like, it just degrades the sound. It's got like a tape kind of saturation, wonky wobbliness going on. You can add like this melt function. You can add chorus, which I have a little bit of, and you can add delay. So without it, sounds like this. And with it. So, and you can EQ and you can get real crazy. To give you an example, like some... Oh, that's wrong. It gets real wonky and crazy. I use it on the Lost Boy sound. That sound, and it's the same sound in Love Is an Ocean. The little people have asked if it's a guitar. It's like brim 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 brim, but it's not. It's a Juno emulation. I'll pull it up later if I have time. Love the sound. Okay, that's the sort of intro. That was way longer in the beginning. It was like twice as long, and I had all this ideas of maybe trying to find news footage, audio from news footage about, you know, armed guards, militia in the streets, and, you know, about, you know, this whole inspiration came from, like, we had been in a pandemic, and it felt like the big corporations were all taking over, and it reminded me of that video game, which is essentially about like regular people being stolen off the streets and turned into cyborgs, if I'm not mistaken, and kind of like stealing the souls of, you know, of innocent human beings to do the biddings of the big mega corporation, all that stuff. So I was like, this feels super resonant to today. And that's where the kind of inspiration came from. But I ended up, especially when we wanted to make it a single, I was like, I gotta tighten this up a bit. So anyway, we go into the main track. And obviously I had to bring back the toms that come in here. And for this one, I've had a bounce for so many years, but like some old bounce from Shadows. The do 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 do. But I went back and opened my old sessions, and as best as I could, because I really liked the sound of it, I actually downloaded a reverb plugin that I used to use on like Collateral and Shadows, and that I didn't have anymore. I used it, so I didn't use it on this track, but I used that reverb on a lot of the toms on this album. So it's very much like I was trying to stay true to that initial sound that I sort of arrived at in 2017 and for Nocturnal and things like that. So this sounds like this. So actually, I believe that, oh, wait a minute, here we go. So these are some Simmons toms samples that I messed around with and added reverb and all kinds of crap, and then bounced. And so I've been using them as samples. They're actually from Crystalline. It's a snare drum level, sort of snare drum kind of layer to a snare drum in Crystalline. I used it. But these are the original drums. This is just a bounce. This is the toms. So it's Simmons toms that I did a bunch of stuff to and bounced and blah, 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 blah. And these are the ones where I was like, I got to find the root sample and I got to redo them so I have control and I can use them so I'm not just like time stretching the same damn sample every time. Anyway, I really, I went to great lengths to mimic and kind of nail the sound from the drums from Shadows and Nocturnal. It was very intentional. Actually, I think this snare drum the kick drum is not the Nocturnal and Shadows kick drum. It actually is the kick drum I made for America 2 many years ago. But it's, I treated it in a similar way. So that sounds like this. This is what I've got going on my drum bus, by the way. A lot of so here's some transient control, adding more attack, adding some sustain. This disperser, I've been using it a lot on the new album. Not on every track, but a lot of it. It's on the drum bus, on Love is an Ocean. It's from a company called Kilohertz, I think, actually. A Swedish company, if I'm not mistaken. They're great. They have a lot of really cool little plugins. And I'd never used it. I actually saw this one on some kind of track video, studio video or something with Com Trues on YouTube years ago. And I was like, what's that? Oh, I had the whole package that the guys from Kilohertz were kind enough to send me all their plugins back in 2019, and I still have them. So I had it. And I was like, what does this do? And so let me just play the drums for you without it. You can hear it's very subtle, but it's kind of not subtle and either, so you can hear it. So it just feels a little flatter. So if you hear that, it kind of adds that little pinch. It's like, doo, doo. It's like it's almost doing something to the frequencies. If we solo that kick. You can really hear the difference there. And it controls the low end in a really nice way. It makes it feel just a little bit more like, I don't know, EDM-y, for lack of a better word. I don't know. It feels very contemporary and current. And I just really like it on a drum bus, sometimes just on the sample on a snare or a kick or whatever, but usually on a drum bus. But you got to be really sparse with it. And it's all about finding the right kind of frequency area. And then this is often I have it in 0. And, once you go above this, it just gets a little lasery and it's a bit much. But if that's what you like, then go for it. Here is the snare from Shadows and Nocturnal. So, bounce. I had through some plugins when I bounced it in 2017. And I found the original sample. I was like, I'm just going to use that. So I did my best. I used literally the same panning, the same levels for these hi-hats. Let me go. Where's the other hi-hat? Am I tripping right now? Oh, this is the hi-hat here. So these two. I'm such a perfectionist. #Virgo. Here it is, and this is the other one. And that is literally down to the dB and panning is the settings I had on Nocturnal and Shadows. Okay, enough about that. But my drum bus, UAD, this is the free legacy version of a SSL compressor, which is great. And I like how it sounds. It adds some punch. And this guy is a big bad boy, and I love it, from Softtube. I think that's my king transient shaper, transient designer. I love that you can choose which, the punch, do you want it only the low end, low frequencies, or the whole range, or the high? And you can do the same with the sustain. So you may want your low end to be punchy, but you don't want it to affect your higher frequencies and vice versa. And you can add a little compression, and you can even crank this. This just adds clipping, and it took me a while to figure out you can do this, and you can actually gain stage and, even it out. But it's great. It's just such a great transient designer. A little bit of EQ, taking out some harshness in the sort of 4 to 5K. A little bit of control, multi-band compression there in the low end. And then this knock, I found it on sale, some sale, and I haven't actually used it on anything else, just this track. But it seems good. I think it's more made for like hip hop drums and stuff, like 808 stuff. But it worked for this drum bus, so that's what I went with. Okay, gotta move on because we got 25 minutes left. Okay, bass, we talked through that. That's a Serum bass. I feel like I found some, for this one, I feel like I found some tutorial on YouTube and made it. I found a bunch of like Reese bass. So this is what it sounds like. So that's a Reese bass, very wide, low, you know, kind of a 90s thing. It's a little detuned and it just feels really nice and round. And as you can see, this filter is not engaged. The filter's in here. So I found some kind of tutorial and just followed it to the mark, and then I tweaked it a bit from there. But this is what it sounds like. So really like growly and warm and just great. I don't know what I've gone on. This is I think they did a new version of this, but plug in the lines again. I think it has some mono low end as well here. So if we, never mind. You'll know what it's about. Let's move on. Okay, let's get to this guy. These are samples that I made for myself, and you will be familiar with the sound. That's the sound of the midnight, apparently. I never gave this a second thought when I used it. I think the first time it might have been the equalizer. I recall it as if it was the Lost and Found remix I did for Tyler's song Lost and Found, which is sort of now just become our song. But I think in actual fact it was the equalizer, and it is from a plugin. I gave it away the other day, and now I'm just gonna give it away again. Let's just try this. I'm gonna move my water bottle. It's from a plugin called Saurus. Where is it? Tone 2 Saurus, and there is a setting called, I had to reduce the sizing. Hang on, let me try that. Okay, we're good. It's under pads. What am I doing? I'm ruining my own career. It's called Release Pad. Wait, where am I? Release Pad. There we go. So this is it. Let me just put the link. So it's essentially, this is how it works. So it's beautiful sound, and essentially you just you hold it in, and this is what happens. And then when you let go, it says that sort of release sound. So it's just one note. Oh, it's not one note. It's just a keyboard, and I made up the chord I like, which tends to be this one. That's just the chord I've always been gravitated towards since I learned to play the piano when I was a young kid. And that's what I love. And then I bounced it and sampled it and da-da-da-da-da throughout the years. And now I've got it down to a whole science. And it's the release. And then a second channel in my sample. This guy has the Devaster on it, which is an amazing plugin from D19, I think it is. They're called D19. Is that what they're called? D19 Group. German company, if I'm not mistaken. I even have the setting for it, so it's like controlling. So without it, it sounds like this. And with it, you can hear it. Really bringing in those mids and, cutting some lows. We don't need those lows. And compressing the shit out of it. And it's got aggressive compression and limiting and some distortion functions and then filters built in. It's so great, and you can use it on so many things. So that's that sound. Also, I have to give a shout out to Nest Acoustics, who added some additional production to this track. So we have our broken square bass, for example. This guy. And what Nest is so good at, go follow him on Instagram. His stuff is so amazing. Ben does rock. Garbage Greg says Ben rocks. Ben's a mad scientist, and we're so lucky to have him work on this record with us. And he is so good at kind of finding sounds and sort of slotting them in where there's space. So he added this little bass support sound. Like really degraded, and so it goes along with this sound. But with it, just adds, you know, when you mute it, you can really hear what's missing. Just adds texture, and that's what he's so damn good at. He added a bunch of other things also. Let's get to the chorus. Let's see. So this one, does it still keep playing? No, this ends. And I had this. This is Saurus again, and I'm opening the filter. I apologize. This is so huge. I did a mini breakdown of this track yesterday for socials, and I had to make everything tiny and small because it's got to fit into this weird vertical phone format, and it's so hard to fit everything in. Anyway, that's why everything's so tiny. Saurus is just a great analog feeling synth. It's, you know, reminiscent in the same sort of color as I find that Diva has. But it's in many ways sometimes feels more modern. It is what I used for Love is an Ocean. What's it called? Saurus. This guy that you'll recognize. So, you know, as you can hear, let me take that off. As you can hear, it's very, you know, clear. It can do that as well, which is very, I would say, I don't know, EDM-y is the wrong word, but contemporary. It's not just trying to mimic Juno synths, you know, which I think the Diva is emulating a lot of vintage synths. And this one feels like that. It's got this wavy feel. I love this pad. I used it on everywhere on the record. Do this. Oh, wrong filter. So nice. Let's just unbypass that. Respace. So fat and dirty. I love it. Monkey Call, some kind of weird little preset in Serum that just sounds like this. And it just goes on forever, this delay, this reverb. It's so beautiful. I didn't do anything to it. It's just all built into the sound. And then these guys. I love this sound. This is my shit. And I want to use this for more. Like, I'm a little creatively depleted after finishing this record, but I'm only all these sounds, I want to use them and make new ideas and really lean into the vaporwaveness of it all. But as you can hear, when you open the filters, let me see. It goes low. I mean, that's just crack for my ears. I don't know about you guys, but it's crack for mine. Love that. And then Ben at Nest Acoustics added this. What's this? Let's see, distant chords. That's Ben all day. Listen to these textures, guys. Ugh. So if we mute these, make sure the vocal is muted here just to get some space. Oh, we have this little guy as well, just adding some.
some punch and some texture. And I feel like I have, where's the thing that's adding some, well, there was a little clappy thing, but I don't know. I feel like I can hear it. Oh, is it this maybe? No, but anyway, this is also Ben. Listen to this. So he's adding another texture to the video gamey sound. It sounds like this. Solo these two. Sorry, I'm kind of being messy right now, but I'm trying to get through it quicker. Hear that? And that's what we're hearing ringing out. Anyway, just wanted to call attention to that. So without these textures, mute this here for a second. Listen to that. Ben is so good at adding. What he does is so different. I don't want to say opposite from me, but I tend to go very clean and I want to clean everything up but Ben is so good at making stuff feel not machine-like and sterile. An indictment of my sound, I guess. The sterile producer. No soul. And Ben just adds this really organic yet still very digital sort of atmospheric, what's the word, like ethereal. He's so good at those ethereal textures, and he always finds room in the space in the track, and he's just so good at it. So he just added these on most of these tracks on the album. He added these textures and this depth, and every time I tried to add more like little rolls that took up more space, it felt like it was just cheapening it. So I ended up keeping it quite ethereal and spacious. And therefore, on this whole record, sometimes I've felt listening back to it, I'm like, oh, is there not enough going on? But I also think once you listen deeper, it requires the listener to kind of lean in a little bit more. And it's not quite as, I don't think pandering is the right word, but it's a little bit more mature. And I wanted to make it just slightly less cute, because it can get a little cute with all the bells and all the cute things and all that stuff. So I don't know. Ben was just such a great component to this. Here is a sample that I found on Splice years ago. I used it in Shadowverse, which is why it's called Shadowverse sample. I suspect that Ben got his little grubby hands in it and muddied it up and dirtied it up even more and kind of rolled off highs and made up. But it's in Shadowverse as well, very subtly. You may not be able to hear it. But I love this sample, and I was wanting to fit it into some tracks for a while, and I finally found the space. This is it. And I think initially it was in a different BPM, a different key. And so this has been like pitched and done a bunch of stuff too and all that stuff. So here is a pad that I kept. I recorded it years ago and I kept it. It's just like a dot pad for my Matrix 6 pad, synth that I have from Oberheim, an old vintage synth. I bought it for $900 on Craigslist during the pandemic. And it's really nice. It's a mono synth, so it sounds like this. Ooh, those ninths. I'm a sucker for a ninth. Give me some sus 9 and that's all I want to play. Okay, so a little compression, a little bit of EQ controlling some of that low rumble. The key is just throw some chords on that. That baby comes alive. Oh, this is UAD, by the way. Studio D, great chorus. You don't have a lot of flexibility, but you don't need it. It's an emulation of a classic chorus module, apparently. Sounds great. What else do we have? That's it. And this is just the same pluck in the bridge. And I apologize, I'm not very good at keeping an eye on the chat as well.
when we've done this, I'm going to try to get done the next like 10 minutes. When we're done, I'll look at the chat and you can ask me if there's specific things. I would love to answer any questions you may have. We'll get to the guitar, the crying solo, as some people commenting about it. And I don't know, it's just the name I called it years ago. And the settings have changed and stuff, but essentially it's the same diva patch and just with various new updated versions of Guitar Hero, Guitar Rig, which I find for this sound, I find Guitar Rig is the best. But I'm sure, you know, that rock, I don't know, there's a bunch of these like guitar emulations that I'm sure you can do. You can use it for this kind of stuff, for the synthy guitar type lead. This one comes in, or is it this one? Yeah, I love this sound. And so this sound is, so, you know, it's just what's it called? Basically, soul waves, pretty much. I'm sure some of the nerds out there can say, well, actually, this is great, whatever. It feels like a soul wave to me. And I used it on this. I used it on a couple of other things, and I was like, is it just soul wave upon soul wave? Because I love soul waves. You know, this thing I played for you earlier. This is a bunch of soul waves. All it is, you know, with filters and stuff. But I just think we needed a new thing to add it. It needed a new element in the end, and I was in two minds about bringing this back. Melodically, it bugs me a little bit that it kind of clashes with the top line. So right now we have, if I unmute the vocals, we have, you know, the melody, and I have, by the way, I forgot to play this song here, this sound. Maybe I should do that first. I'll run through the vocals very quickly. But before we do that, so this is the last element synth-wise. Just a lead, sounds really good. A little bit of EQ and a little bit of sidechain. Built in. Spire's a great synth. It feels very modern, and it sits really nice in the mix. It, you know, it's similar color and space to some of the cleaner EDM-y type sounds from Serum, but it's slightly different. Just they sit differently in the mix, I think, but not as analog as Tal, you know, or Diva, or any of those kind of vintage emulations type synths. So they go really well together. I always try to use various different synth plugins, synth makers. Serum sits differently than Spire. Spire sits differently than Diva, Tal, Source. They all kind of have their own algorithms, and I find if you are using Serum on everything, if you're only using Serum, you're kind of, even though it's one's the bass, one's the pad, one's the melody, one's the pluck, or whatever you're doing, it just feels a little bit like the same, like it was made in the same kitchen kind of thing. And I find that they just kind of have their own little shelves if you kind of spread it out on various plugins. So I try to do that. Zebra is another one too. It kind of can go both ways. Okay, moving on. So with that, melody going. The darkness, classic melody, or not classic, but the one you know, and let me unmute this. This vocoder outro. This is actually not really, well, I guess it is a vocoder, but it is a. I think this is the one I'm talking about, right? Oh wait, this is just the send. Where is it? Here we go. The Digitalker. I bought this a few years ago. This apparently is the same vocoder, or it's kind of like a guitar pedal type thing. Digitech Talker is what it's called, and it's what I think Daft Punk used for a lot of their like Digital Love and you know their what's the record? Not Homework, but the one that came out like 25 years ago. And it's so great, and so it's so clear and clean. There's one setting, and that is really clean that I like. And so this is what it sounds like, completely raw.
Where do you go in the darkness?
So a little compressor on this guy, a little bit of chorus, soft tube. This one is aggressive, and it's really great. It actually has just crazy ratio, but for some reason it just sounds. It just adds more presence to a sound. I don't know really. It's great for synths and stuff. And then a little chorus.
Where do you go in the
EQ had some resonance stuff going on. This guy is what's doing the heavy lifting. This is a plugin that Ben Nest Acoustics told me about, and it's like essentially like a distortion type module and has various like algorithms and ways. This is what it sounds like. Let's bypass it. So this is without it.
Where do you go?
And listen to how much loudness and presence it brings.
Where do you go in the darkness?
And then we have some D16 group again that makes Devasta. They do this fantastic bit crusher.
Where do you go in the darkness?
So you're hearing all that, like it's just crunching all that noise, and I should have probably cleaned that up. And when I listen to it, I'm like, damn it, why didn't I do that? Idiot. But that's just you do the best of what you can do.
Where do you
So before we get to Tyler's vocals, this is what I wanted to mention before as well. This guy. So this again. Nest bringing the pain, as we say, the texture. Oh, completely wrong. Where is it? What am I trying to do right now? So this is the lead support. Where's the thing? Here it is. This is the guy. So he's supporting this sound. This is what I was trying to say. Hear that? He's just adding that texture. It just makes it sit so beautifully in the mix. Just it adds depth, and it never gets in the way of anything. And he will just do it, fit it into the arrangement that I've sent him, and it's like I barely have to do anything. See, I didn't even EQ it. I just like put his. Actually, this is Nest Acoustics' own sidechain plugin that I only have had I was too stressed to finish the record to really mess around with it. But it's like it's not just sidechain. It adds a disgusting crunch to a sound. I don't know if we'll hear it because I'm not sure if I did a great job using it, but you hear that? Those little clicks that's intentional. And what that does is when the kick is playing, if you solo that, it just feels like when the kick is playing, it sort of distorts the lead sound, even though it's not. So you're getting a distortion type feel, and you've got different algorithms within the plugin to use, and so you're getting that extra crunchy, as if it's as if it's just too loud and it's being distorted, but it's really clean. So he's a mad genius. We have established that. Okay, what I was going to say with the melody is these two I feel conflict a bit. Here's what I mean. Oh, my ears! I can't even. But it needed to come back. Otherwise, I couldn't justify having it just here as the pre and then not having it. Needed something. But there is part of me that's like, God damn it! It's still, once it's going ba da 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 da, and then da 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 da. But it's doing it at slightly different times, and it's just my pop brain is like, ugh. I cannot abide, but I did it to myself. I don't regret it, but it's one of those things where I was like, it's always a puzzle for me. It's a math puzzle, and I felt like didn't crack that math. I didn't solve that math quite as cleanly as I like to. I mean, tonally, in terms of creating room and space. Okay, let's get to this. We heard this sound before, actually, so not much to it. honestly. Just really nice. It's actually like it's like a super saw that I found, and then I tweaked it and made it less detuned, and it became very synth wavy, and I've been using it a lot. So really nice. Okay, guitar, lead guitar. Well, it's a synth, but we're calling it a guitar. So this is all me. This is what I do, you know, and I really leaned into it for this record. So what I'll do is I'll sit and design these solos for hours, and it takes time because I'm not just ripping it out of my butt. I'm okay, I'm proficient, but I'm not, you know, a virtuoso like real proper musicians. And so what it is, it's this sound. So it's got a little filtering modulation going on. It does some stuff with the velocity in it, and it's nice. And then, you know, I've saved a couple of different presets. So this is the one I'm using that I tend to use lately. Here's another one. So you can hear like a couple. I just kind of saved those three. These were the ones I liked. I went through the whole library and found. You're typically wanting to find. I'm always going for that kind of 80s Van Halen, Steve Lukather, Def Leppard, like that clean, almost like metal lead from the 80s and 90s, specifically 80s, especially 80s, I'd say. And I want it to feel super compressed and controlled, and then some. So it just has such a long to sustain, and obviously that's no problem with the synth, but with a real guitar, it can be a bit more of a challenge. And a bit of delay, bit of EQ, and some sidechain. So that's it. Let's get to the vocals. Bass. Honestly, I use this bass. I use this bass on most of the album. It's a combination of, I've kept tweaking them, but it's a combination of a few things. So God, it's so tiny. Oh. The reason this is called Stargazer is this was the bass setting I used for Love is an Ocean, and the track for Love is an Ocean was called Stargazer for the longest time. And we actually only changed the title once we wrote the song, and right before we released the song when we were doing the artwork or whatnot. And it was like, why would this be called Stargazer? And so that's why. Anyway, this is a Tau bass. Same bass I used on Lost Boy and I don't know, probably a bunch of other stuff. Dance with Somebody. I think maybe on Deep Blue as well. You know, it's a Juno emulation. Love Tau. They're just the best. It requires almost zero DSP power from your computer, so you can run a ton of them, and it just sounds really good. And so this is being low cut a little bit and sent to a bus. We'll get to that bus in a second. Here we are. Let me close these. Here is the top. This is sort of the top of the bass, the plucky sound. That could be a bass in itself, but I found it had a little bit of a weird like resonance down there. So I ended up doing a combination. Actually, this is the bass I'm opening on that is used in Chariot. You know, whatever that's playing. So you can hear that. But I ended up using. So here's Devasta. Just controlling it a bit, very subtly, a little bit of control. And then I'm low cutting it. And so it's then being sent to this bus, both of them. Without anything, it sounds like this. So you're getting that like plucky from the Zebra one, and then you got the warmth and the actual tonal information in the Juno. And then this compressor that can be kind of dirty in a really nice way. from Plugin Alliance. So without it. And you can kind of really add some distortion. If you set it to fast, it really gets filthy. So you can hear that. And then this guy, Faturator. I used to have this, I mean, ages ago. I feel like I knew of this and I never used it. And again, this is from Kilohertz. And I whipped it out and I was like, what does this do? And I just had more time to play around with all these weird little obscure plugins that I had collected throughout the years. And I had a bit more time on this record on this album to experiment with the mix. And so this adds some little fuzz and some color and, you know, some saturation. Brings a nice presence to it, in my opinion. You hear that? And then some EQ. Just like, we don't need whatever's going on under 40K. That's insane. Like, we've already got the, actually, I don't think I have the respace playing here underneath all this because that was too much. But we didn't need it. It was too muddy. So that's what it's doing. That's the bass. Okay, we gotta get moving. I gotta get better at this. I'm so slow. Okay, Tyler's vocals. Someone in the chat while I was playing the track asked what mic he's used. We found the mic for him on this record. This, and I I've forgotten which one it is. We bought one. It sounds so good. It's about $4,000, so it's not a cheap mic. And you know, mics, you can spend more and more. Ultimately, it comes down to the voice. We've tried all kinds of different mics on Tyler's voice, and some are good for some things, but he has a very unique voice, and that can sometimes create. I find some mics, when he's singing full voice, there's like a ton of like high-end resonant information that I need to kind of filter out. This mic you can be singing soft, you can be singing loud, it just sounds so good. And it should for $4,000. But I say that, but you could pay $4,000 and it might not sound right on a voice. So it really, I don't care what shit costs. I don't care who makes it. I don't care what brand. If it sounds right, great, let's get it. I don't care like, oh, this is the one they used for blah, blah, blah. Like, and I'm so unimpressed and uninterested. I should be more interested because and I'm getting to learn a little bit more about gear and stuff, but I'm just not a gear hound in that sense, but I really get excited when I hear what something's doing. So it really is my own ignorance is what it comes down to. A little bit of gentle tuning. I always have a little bit of gentle auto tuning. On this record, I went a little tighter on the auto tune, and you know, not because Tyler can't sing or anything. It's nothing to do with that. It's all about kind of how much are we wanting to lean into this sort of clean aesthetic. And I felt I wanted this to feel really contemporary. What I typically do is I will have a slightly more relaxed tuning setting on the lead and then tighten up the BVs, or I'll do the opposite. I'll have the BVs being a little, you know, depending on the takes, a little bit more, little less aggressive, and then the lead is the clean one. And so, you know, it's all about a balance. Distressor, this is also really small. Can I make it bigger? Oh, here we go. That's good. This has become my favorite. I've had it for years, but I never really used it a lot. And this has just become my go-to favorite compressor. I think other companies do emulations. This is the UAD version. It is just the epitome of silkiness, aggressiveness. Like, you can add some saturation. It's just so good. And the way the sort of the kind of curve of how the ratios kick in work is really interesting. I can't remember off the top of my head, but let me open it. I think this is obviously nothing, but you can get the color from the compression with none of the kind of compression going on. These first, I think, is a fixed knee, if I'm not mistaken, and this one is is it called soft knee, where essentially like the more is coming in, the more the more it won't just be 6-to-1 ratio every time. So it's kind of gradual depending on how much you're feeding it. And so this is much more aggressive, but it's just so good. I highly recommend it if you have the money. This is a really expensive compressor. It costs $200. It's ridiculous, but it's really good. It's really aggressive, but what it really does, it's called Surfer EQ for a reason. So let me make sure it's all soloed. Here's what it does.
I was born in a room with fluorescent light.
So it's not just a multi-band compressor. It will actually fix itself on a certain root note, a frequency in whatever key you're in. So it's showing, what's the key, and it'll say, okay, this is the key. This is where the signal is moving, and you can say, okay, I want it to constantly turn down. So when Tyler sings in the higher range, it'll follow and kind of, so these two bands I think are following. Yeah.
I was born in a room.
And it's just so good. So I'm not doing anything else, but it's really good. And then I'm adding, soothe, just to kind of control some of the sibilance and some of the harshness. Not that there was a lot of harshness, but a little bit of that high mids. And same here, a lot of stuff going on. But the key on the key on this record was I wanted to feel more transparent. But the beauty was with this mic, I was able to do it. So it looks like I have done a ton of stuff to it, but because let's like solo it all out, just compression.
I was born in a room
Like,
with fluorescent light.
listen to how clean that sounds.
Raised to be kind and afraid of height.
I mean, that's so good. So easy to work with. So de-esser, this guy is kind of a level. It's not a compressor, kind of. It kind of functions as one, but essentially is you can reduce your dynamic range a bit, and it will pull stuff up if it's low, or it will reduce if you say, well, these high notes, I want them to be not quite as high. You can do that. Very good. It's just another level of sort of dynamic range control. This has become my favorite plugin for, I forget who makes it. Sonox Vox D Widen. It's become my favorite widener for lead vocals. Oftentimes I find that some of these plugins add these sort of digital artifacts, and I'm not naming any names, but sometimes it feels a little digital, and sometimes you can get away with putting a chorus or like a very short reverb on a lead or on a vocal, whatever, to get that wideness. But I prefer, a type of like a chorus or sort of that effect, which is essentially what this is from what I understand. It's delaying the signal a little bit and it's fluctuating the pitch a little bit, and then you can kind of choose your tone. Is I guess the tone here is against in the sort of frequency spectrum where it's focusing it on. Depth is, I guess, how much is varying the waves to create that chorus control. It just sounds the best. So with and without it.
I was born in a room with fluorescent light.
Yeah, that is just
raised to be kind.
So it does something. There's a little bit of delay there, which is fine. It just adds. It's like a super short reverb, and that's become my favorite one. And then this guy is adding a little bit of saturation to it.
I was born in a room.
Just giving some presence to cut through the mix. And then I went deep on these reverbs. Man, this bad boy is a beast. I mean, I am such a fan of Baby Audio stuff. I have not all their stuff, but I have a lot of it. And they have Comeback Kid. They even have a reverb called Crystalline, which I'm like, I actually think I may have asked them, but they said no, they weren't fans. It had nothing to do with us. But I'm a huge fan of their stuff. This it's essentially like a delay reverb plugin. I don't use the delay function. I find it gets a little confusing, and I don't like to have the delay and the reverb in the same thing, because what if I want to turn down the reverb, or what if I want to... Now it's,
you can, but it just gets a little like that stuff gets a little hard for me. So I keep it at 100, and I'm just using the delay and bypassing. It's because it's not using it's set here, so it's not pulling any of the delay. So it has this. You can get real. We'll play for you. Let me bypass these guys.
I was born in a room with fluorescent lights.
So it's not crazy long, the tail, but it has. Sorry, we're going way over, but it's fine. We're in it now. Is the ducking capabilities so nice? So you'll hear.
I was born in a room with fluorescent lights.
I mean, that's a really, it's just so easy to make it transparent. A good example of a fantastic ducking reverb effect on a lead voice is I forget what the artist did, but the Wallflower. You mean so much. From the Spider-Man, Spider-Verse. Let me know in chat. You know what it is. Listen to that. I forget the name of the artist, but that's. Sorry, I'm reading the chat here. That is a brilliant way. It's so much space for the vocal when he's singing and rapping, but then every time he comes out, it's just you've got that wetness, that space, and it's just so nice. Sunflower, yeah. What's the song? It's not Wallflower. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I think Post Malone featured on it, but it's someone else. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Someone was asking me here, why did you want it to be more transparent to get some kind of tone, emphasize the feeling? Are you talking about the reverb or the widener? I'm assuming you're talking about the reverb. Transparent in the sense you just create space for the lead. So that if we take it down here.
I was born in a room with fluorescent light.
Versus this.
Raised to be kind and afraid of heights.
Sometimes you want, this is extremes obviously, sometimes you want a little bit more space when the person is singing so you can hear the lyrics and it's not being drenched in reverb, but the microsecond the singing stops, the vocal stops, you get the wetness because it's ducking it and it just creates space. It's just adding clutter and muddiness in a mix sometimes if you just have especially if you're dealing with a long reverb tail, and we'll get to that in a sec. Some Valhalla delay, love this delay. This is just the delay unit playing here.
Raised to be kind and afraid of heights.
So you can see the ducking is set to 80, so it's ducking it every time.
I was born in a room with fluorescent light.
Versus this.
Raised to be kind and afraid of heights.
So you hear that? It's like when he keeps singing and the delays just keep coming, especially set to, it's a slow tempo and this is like quarter fourths and 1/4. It just can get really like delay and just messy. And so a ducking feature is really good. Did I brought it back up. I think I used a long setting on this guy. So let me solo, right? It's the same setting, tweaked a bit, but set to the long. It has a setting. So this is, let's do this.
I was born in a room with fluorescent
super
lights.
Short, right? A little longer.
Raised to be kind and afraid of heights.
Longer.
But they always seem to find me.
And this one is just called Outer Space, and I love it.
I was born in a room with fluorescent lights. Raised to be kind and afraid of heights.
So you hear it's so long, and it's not being used here, but it's actually used. That is being used in the very first chorus when all the drums drop out. Okay, that was that's in depth. I normally don't go as in depth on like vocal chain and stuff, but I figured it's fun to do now. Similar things to do here because it was recorded with the same mic and same. Vocoder. I know we have some vocoder. Besides this is like color vocoder. So this is vocal synth. I actually have the Moog vocoder sitting next to me, and I actually was on such a time crunch that I never got to really fully use it on this album, and I want to explore it more. But to be honest, I haven't been able to really work it really well. Actually, it's used in one place on the record, and maybe, just maybe, it's the song that I sing, but it's just a couple of verses. But anyway, that is that vocoder. Play this. This is the vocoder.
Where do you go in the darkness?
So let's just do this. Take this. Have this playing. Hold this is the vocoder. Here we go. All right.
Where do you go in the darkness?
Just colors, really.
When you're alone in your bed, how do you dream when you're just a machine, imagining colors you can't see? How do you dream?
Let's give you some. Try something here. I want to give you a little chord sensation here. Chord feeling of some.
When you're alone in your bed, how do you dream? Just a machine, imagining colors you can't see.
So that is that's that vocoder. Vocal synth from Isotope. I love this one. This is I used a combination of this and on America Online, I used a combination of this and a little vocoder plugin called BitSpeak, which is like $20 or something. It's really nice. Required some finagling, but it's got a really good quality to it. It's like degraded and very 90s kind of dial-up modem-y sounding. That's essentially it. We'll stick around a little bit and chat if you have any questions, but that is the track breakdown of Digital Dreams. Yeah, before we end, any questions in the chat? Anything you kind of want me to shine a light on? Let me see if you guys... Tim's such a good teacher. Thank you. I feel like I suck at it. I feel like I'm going either too fast or too slow, but I don't know. So I'm just learning on the go. Tim, that was clean as fuck. Yeah, bro. That's how we roll. I do my best. Who's asking here? Tim, what happened to the song with these lyrics? Half gods, half dressed in the twilight. Ooh, that will be... The plan is to make that a vocal version on one of the instrumental tracks on the album. That's all I'll say. But yeah, Tyler had written that on one of the tracks and felt like he hadn't really nailed it as much as he would have liked to. And so we ended up going back to the instrumental and keeping it instrumental. I'm not going to say which track. You'll have to wait and hear when the album comes out. But yeah, any other questions for you guys, from you guys? Let me see show us how... Chris Hahn, show us how you make the midnight stinger that you use on all the albums. That I did that. Maybe you just joined, Chris, but I already did that in this track. The release pad, Saurus release pad. There you go. Whoopsie. Any other questions? Maybe let me see if I can find, kind of go through the chat. Is Varsity Blue Dreams alive? Oh man, I haven't. You talking about my Instagram or just the project, Varsity Blue? It's a glimpse in my eye as an idea of something I want to do. It was just to have sort of an outlet so that not everything had to flow through the midnight. But to be honest with you, it's way more fun if I have a cool idea, it's way more fun to make it a midnight track because it's got a bigger platform. I really haven't had
an idea where I was like, well, this will never work for the midnight, and therefore it has to be this, you know? So the idea was to have, like Tyler has his own solo project. But the thing about my sound is so my sound. So it's sort of silly not to just make it a midnight track. So I think it's something that may be used in the future, but don't have any plans. Like my bandwidth goes full towards the midnight. It's all, you know, that's what I love doing, and I love creating with Tyler, and I love creating with all our cool people. So yeah, that's it. I think that's about it for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you all. Stay safe, take care of each other, be kind, be empathetic, and be rad. I love you all. Have a great night. Bye.